Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're tackling something absolutely huge, completely transforming our global economy. We are looking at the very foundation of how we make, use, and value literally everything around us. And we'll be guided by Dr. Walter R. Stahel's really groundbreaking work on what he calls the performance economy. So I want you to think about this. What if companies only made money when their products didn't break? Just imagine for a second the ancient Chinese doctors. They had a fascinating business model. They were only paid when their patients were healthy, right? If a patient got sick, the doctor just didn't get paid, and sometimes they even had to cover the cost of the medicine out of their own pocket. Now, that completely flips our current economic system on its head, doesn't it? Because right now, our system is basically built backward. It actually rewards failure and replacement instead of durability. And fixing that? Well, that requires a massive rule change from our policymakers. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the linear economy illusion, then enter the performance economy, look at the power of reversed incentives, discuss policymaking for the planet, and finally wrap up with shifting the tax burden.
Okay, Section 1, the linear economy illusion, the flawed foundation.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the linear industrial economy is essentially just a giant take-make-waste trap. You extract natural resources, turn them into base materials, manufacture objects, and then ship them all over the world only to hit a massive dead end. The second a product is sold and used, its value pretty much just drops to zero. It becomes waste, destined for the landfill or the incinerator. In this old model, global logistics and all that manufacturing efficiency, they merely accelerate the journey to the garbage dump. It's totally a one-way street of value destruction.
In that linear economy, companies are just selling objects. Quality simply means, there are no manufacturing defects when you first open the box. And maybe it's guaranteed for a year or two. But over in the performance economy, companies sell results. Quality is entirely redefined. It becomes the optimization of a system functioning over a long period of time. So it's not about selling you a car, it's about selling you mobility.
Which brings us to Section 2. Enter the performance economy, the sustainable reality. Let's look at this through the lens of bathtub economics. Our old system measures economic success by the water flowing from the tap, so gross domestic product or GDP throughput. But true societal wealth isn't the water just rushing out and running right down the drain. It's the water actually retained inside the tub. The performance economy is all about maintaining the quantity and the quality of that stock. It's about managing the wealth we actually have, rather than just cheering for how fast we can turn the tap on and drain it all out. And to manage that stock properly, the performance economy introduces two absolutely crucial dimensions to business that were mostly missing before: time and liability. When a company sells a result instead of just an object, they're suddenly liable for how long that object actually lasts. Think of Michelin. They stopped just selling tires to truck fleet and instead started selling miles of motoring. Or Rolls-Royce. They shifted from selling jet engines to selling hours of turbine thrust, a whole program they famously call Power by the Hour. Because they retain ownership, it is entirely in their financial interest to make tires that don't wear out and engines that just do not break. Moving on to Section 3, the power of reversed incentives, rewarding prevention. So what does this actually mean? Reversed incentives mean rewarding economic actors for preventing losses and maintaining value, rather than, just reacting to failures. And this brings us right back to our ancient Chinese doctors from the intro. When you are paid to keep someone healthy, your whole incentive is prevention. When a manufacturer retains ownership and liability for, say, an engine, their incentive completely shifts away from planned obsolescence, where things are basically designed to break so you buy more, to ultimate durability. They want that engine running flawlessly for decades. Consider the U.S. firefighter system for a great real-world example. Traditionally, firefighters were promoted based on their experience putting out massive, raging fires. It was all about rewarding the reaction to a disaster. But then a systemic shift happened. They realized, hey, the ultimate goal is actually having no fires at all. So they started promoting officers in districts with the fewest fires. They started rewarding excellence in loss prevention and safety education. Evaluating professionals on prevention creates systemic resilience. It literally stops the fires before they even start. Section 4, Policymaking for the Planet, Leveling the Field. So the crucial point here is that governments need to step in to make this the norm. Take the Minamata Convention on Mercury, for instance. It's an international treaty designed to protect human health and the environment from mercury emissions. International treaties exactly like this can legally force companies to prevent loss and stop pollution.
When the law says you are strictly liable for the toxic molecules you lose into the environment, you suddenly invest heavily in closed-loop systems and chemical leasing to ensure not a single drop is ever wasted. 15 years. That's a standard fiscal depreciation period in a lot of countries, and it has a massive hidden impact on sustainability. For example, over in the aircraft leasing industry, companies like the International Lease Finance Corporation ask manufacturers for 15-year technological upgrade guarantees. Why? Well, because the tax depreciation period for aircraft happens to be 15 years. They use this exact tax rule to force manufacturers to build planes that can be easily upgraded with state-of-the-art tech over a long lifespan rather than, just throwing the whole plane away. See, short-term depreciation periods actively encourage a throwaway culture. A company just writes off the asset quickly and buys a brand new one. But when policymakers link fiscal depreciation directly to the actual service life of equipment, it incentivizes long-term technological upgrades. Manufacturers are practically forced to design for easy maintenance and remanufacturing. This is literally a simple stroke of a policymaker's pen that can drastically extend the life of our physical wealth. And now for our final piece, Section 5, Shifting the Tax Burden. People to pollution. Let me ask you something. Why on earth do we tax human labor, which is a renewable, qualitative resource that actually gets better with education, instead of taxing the depletion of natural resources? Right now, we actively penalize work. We make human maintenance and repair services artificially expensive while we essentially subsidize pollution and the extraction of raw, finite materials. When you really think about it, it is entirely backwards. And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. Currently, our system heavily taxes human labor, making it way cheaper to just throw a broken toaster in the trash than to pay a skilled technician a living wage to fix it. The proposed shift for a true performance economy is to remove the taxes on human labor entirely and instead tax carbon emissions and non-renewable natural resource consumption. By physically shifting the tax burden from people over to pollution, we make caring, repairing, and remanufacturing highly profitable and competitive. We actually create local jobs while saving the planet. Let's move to and see how this builds into our roadmap for the future. 1. We absolutely must end the take, make, waste trap. 2. Businesses need to shift to selling performance and results, not just disposable objects. 3. We must adopt reversed incentives, exactly like those ancient doctors, to reward prevention. 4. Policymakers must link depreciation to service life to really encourage durability. And 5. We must shift the tax burden away from renewable human labor and on to pollution and resource extraction. I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. If we stopped taxing human labor tomorrow and instead taxed resource waste and CO2 emissions, what kind of world would we actually start building? We would build a world of repair, of care, of high-quality local jobs, and of immense, lasting wealth. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I strongly encourage you to look closer at the framework of our economy in your own daily life and ask yourself, are we rewarding the right things? Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.